From this video, you will get tips to prepare for the AZ-500 Microsoft Azure Security Technologies exam. What is Microsoft Azure Security Technologies? Certification benefits. Exam details. Skills measured. Preparation tips. 1. You need to ensure that you can meet the security operations requirements. What should you do first? A. Turn on auto-provisioning in Security Center. B. Integrate Security Center and Microsoft Cloud App Security. C. Upgrade the pricing tier of Security Center to Standard. D. Modify the Security Center workspace configuration. Answer: C. 2. You have an Azure subscription named Sub1 that is associated to an Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, tenant named Contoso.com. You are assigned the Global Administrator role for the tenant. You are responsible for managing Azure Security Center settings. You need to create a custom sensitivity label. What should you do first? A. Create a custom sensitive information type. B. Elevate access for global administrators in Azure AD. C. Upgrade the pricing tier of the Security Center to Standard. D. Enable integration with Microsoft Cloud App Security. Answer: A. 3. You create a new Azure subscription. You need to ensure that you can create custom alert rules in Azure Security Center. Which two actions should you perform? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Onboard Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, Identity Protection. B. Create an Azure Storage account. C. Implement Azure Advisor recommendations. D. Create an Azure Log Analytics workspace. E. Upgrade the pricing tier of Security Center to Standard. Answer: D, E. 4. You have 10 virtual machines on a single subnet that has a single network security group, NSG. You need to log the network traffic to an Azure storage account. Which two actions should you perform? Each correct answer presents part of the solution. Note: each correct selection is worth 1 point. A. Install the Network Performance Monitor solution. B. Enable Azure Network Watcher. C. Enable diagnostic logging for the NSG. D. Enable NSG flow logs. E. Create an Azure Log Analytics workspace. Answer: D. 5. You are troubleshooting a security issue for an Azure storage account. You enable the diagnostic logs for the storage account. What should you use to retrieve the diagnostics logs? A. Azure Storage Explorer. B. SQL Query Editor in Azure. C. File Explorer in Windows. D. Azure Security Center. Answer: A. 6. You have an Azure subscription linked to an Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 1 tenant. You plan to implement Azure Active Directory, Azure AD, Identity Protection. You need to ensure that you can configure a user risk policy and a sign-in risk policy. What should you do first? A. Purchase Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 2 licenses for all users. B. Register all users for Azure Multi-Factor Authentication, MFA. C. Enable security defaults for Azure AD. D. Upgrade Azure Security Center to the standard tier. Answer: A. 7. You have an Azure subscription that contains 4 Azure SQL managed instances. You need to evaluate the vulnerability of the managed instances to SQL injection attacks. What should you do first? A. Create an Azure Sentinel workspace. B. Enable advanced data security. C. Add the SQL Health Check solution to Azure Monitor. D. Create an Azure Advanced Threat Protection, ATP, instance. Answer: B. 8. You have an app that uses an Azure SQL database. You need to be notified if a SQL injection attack is launched against the database. What should you do? A. Modify the diagnostic settings for the database. B. Deploy the SQL Health Check solution in Azure Monitor. C. Enable Azure Defender for SQL for the database. D. Enable server-level auditing for the database. Answer: C. 9. You are troubleshooting a security issue for an Azure storage account. You enable Azure Storage Analytics logs and archive it to a storage account. What should you use to retrieve the diagnostics logs? A. Azure Storage Explorer. B. SQL Query Editor in Azure. C. Azure Monitor. D. Azure Cosmos DB Explorer. Answer: A. 10. You have an Azure subscription that uses Azure AD Privileged Identity Management, PIM. A user named User1 is eligible for the Billing Administrator role. You need to ensure that the role can only be used for a maximum of 2 hours. What should you do? A. Create a new access review. B. Edit the role assignment settings. C. Update the end date of the user assignment. D. Edit the role activation settings. Answer: B. Subscribe and like. Pass question.